Good evening, everybody. It's June 13th. This is our regular Town of Rhinebeck Town Board meeting. Thanks for joining us. Would everybody please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with
liberty and
justice
justice for all.
for all. Okay, I just have one announcement. First of all, could all visitors please mute yourselves? Ted, David, Susan, thank you very much. We are having a soil test and perk test at our park on Thursday, the 15th this week, sometime in the afternoon. So Josh will be there to see how the test is going and what the perk test shows. That will give us more information about what kind of infrastructure we need for the field. Thanks. We are continuing two public hearings from May 9th. One is local law to be determined of 2022 entitled a local law amending the town code, chapter 125 zoning in the matter of revising section 125-47 on solar energy systems. And the second is a local law amending regulations for the Office Research Park ORP zoning district in the town code chapter 125 zoning by adding communications facility and tower use as a special use permit requiring site plan approval and clarifying vehicular access requirement to parcels in the ORP by adding language to that.
There's a question from the audience about not being able to hear. Are we broadcast?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I don't know. Where's the question?
Ted Rothstein saying he can't hear.
Yep, I can hear. Can you hear? Ted, maybe turn up your volume. I don't know. Let me see. I'm not seeing any.
Just want to make sure there's no technical.
No, we're fine.
Okay.
First of all, are there any? I'm going to go with the second one first. Are there any? What? I'm sorry. Yeah, I just heard the S word. I'm going to go with the second public hearing first regarding the ORP. Are there any? We've had this open for, is this our third session, Joan? So we've had this open for third sessions. Are there any comments or questions from anyone in the public regarding the second public hearing for zoning regulations amendments for the ORP? Does anybody wish to comment on the ORP local law? Hearing nothing, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing comment for the zoning amendment to the ORP. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of closing the public hearing comment for the ORP zoning law revision?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. It's unanimous. I'd like to go to the resolution for this then, if I may, which is, just give me a second here.
No way, we can't. We have to go through the part 2 and 3 of the environmental assessment for.
But why don't we do that then, Warren?
Yeah, maybe Jim could do that. Jim, would you mind just taking us through that?
Yep, I just have to open the file.
Take your time. Yeah, town board members and members of the public, it's behind. Joni, is it behind the notice or is it with the resolution?
I think she sent that with the
Warren.
packet.
Warren, hold on, please.
It's with the resolution.
Thank you. So I wanted to get the resolution on the floor so we can do this, Warren. I'd like a motion for resolution This is item number 16, Resolution 2022-154, adopting local law 2 of 2022 to amend our ORP zoning. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Chauncey. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, now we can go through all the stuff.
Sorry, I'm still opening my file. so-
Yeah, that's okay. And honestly,
Yeah,
this,
sorry.
we have, this is a big agenda tonight, a lot of papers.
Where'd it go? Sleeping. Okay, here we go. Okay, sorry about that. So part 2, looking at the communication facility access regs, ORP standards. I took a look at this for you. Again, remember this is a zoning change. We're not actually putting a project on the ground or anything to that degree. My review of what is proposed based on what's written is I did not find that there would be any impact on land, that there was any proposed action that would involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. Again, this is zoning. That would be reviewed, I think, on a case-by-case basis with the project, if a project were to come in under the zoning. Number 2, impact on geological features. Again, I don't believe that the action will result directly in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms. Item number 3, impact on surface water. That one's discussing whether or not the proposed action would affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. Again, I don't believe the zoning would do that. It would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis by the planning board if something came before them. Same goes for impact on groundwater. Don't believe this action will this action will result in this action definitely won't result in new or additional use of groundwater. Don't believe it'll have the potential to introduce contaminants into the groundwater or the aquifer. Again, it would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Will it have an impact on flooding? Again, I don't believe the zoning will do that. I don't believe that it will have an impact on air and state regulated air emission source, which likely wouldn't come into play anyway. I don't believe the action will have a result on loss of flora or fauna that would not be adequately reviewed and addressed by the planning board if the project came in. Will the proposed action have an impact on agricultural resources? I don't believe that would be the case, that there would be a moderate to large impact. If there was, it would have to be mitigated as the project came through. Will there be an impact on the aesthetic resources? Will the land use of the proposed action be different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns? This is in the ORP. I don't believe that there would be any issues there. Certainly aren't with this as a zoning change. Impact on historic archaeological resources. Again, I don't believe the zoning will create an issue there. Impact on open space and recreation. Would it result in a loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of open space resource in an adopted municipal open space plan? The answer to that is no. Would it have an impact on a critical environmental area? The answer is no. We actually don't have any in town at the moment, officially. Would it have an impact on transportation? Will it result in a change to the existing transportation system? No, I don't believe that would be the case. We are talking about access changes, but they would all be coming from the same site anyway. It's access to a particular site, so I don't believe there would be any changes there, and certainly not from the fact that this is a rezoning. Impact on energy. Will it cause an increase in the use of any form of energy? I don't believe it will. Impact on noise, odor, and light. Will it result in an increase in any of those? I don't believe that that would be the case. It's certainly not, again, from this being a rezoning. Impact on human health. Will it have an impact on human health exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants? I believe the answer is no. And again, zoning wouldn't do that. Consistency with the community plans. Is it consistent with the adopted land use plans? I believe the answer to that is yes, but in the form, the answer is actually no, because we're saying there are no negative impacts. And finally, is it consistent with community character? I believe that it would be consistent. Again, we're looking at the ORP, its access changes, and a cell tower. So those were my recommendations for the part 2.
Thank you. Warren, anything else?
No, I'm good with that. We already, in the resolution, we've indicated that there did not seem any potential for any significant environmental impacts. So a draft environmental impact statement need not be prepared.
Terrific. Hold on, I've got so many papers I'm going back and forth. Anything else we have to do? Boxes we have to tick off? Do we have to vote on the impact environmental EAF, or are we just fine to vote?
That's all in the resolution. All you have to do is sign the part 3, I think the part 3 of the EAF, and that has to be filed with the environmental notice bulletin. It's in the resolution.
Right, the part three was drafted and essentially summarizes what I just ran through.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions or comments from the town board? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of adopting resolution 2022-154, local law number 2 for 2022, entitled a local law amending regulations for the office research park ORP zoning district in town code chapter 125, et cetera, et cetera.
Need a roll call.
Okay, by roll call.
Yep.
Josh Pulver. That's a yes. Alan Scher.
Aye.
Ed Roberts,
Yes.
Chauncey Walker,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. It's unanimous. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Okay, thanks for all your work on that, Jim. I guess now let's go back. We still have a public hearing open on the first local law for solar. Are there any comments from anyone in the public for this?
Hi, everybody. I have a comment or a question.
Aye.
Hi, my name's Emily Flanagan. I'm here with David Albrecht. We are with a community solar project developer company called Carson Power. We are currently looking at a property that is predominantly in the town of Red Hook, but a portion of the project is actually going to be also in the town of Rhinebeck. And so we were hoping to maybe ask a couple of questions of clarification on the proposed draft law.
Sure, this is a public hearing, so we're here to listen to comments, absolutely.
Great, so Dave is in charge of all of our civil engineering, so I will let him ask a couple of questions. And
we're here to take comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Albrecht. I'll be really quick. I know you have a long agenda. The first couple things, and I think watching your May 9th town board meeting video, there was some question about coverage. And one of our questions or thoughts is, I think it sounded like you guys were looking to clarify that as well. We understand that it's based on the size of the solar modules, which is fairly typical across, most of New England and New York. The question we have is the area, the percentage that you might be thinking about relative to a parcel. I think right now it refers to the maximum lot coverage of the zoning district and the bulk regulations. And as it currently stands, I was not able to locate a definite in the bulk standard table. I was not able to locate a maximum lot coverage. I was only able to see a minimum lot coverage title. So that's a clarification we'd be interested in understanding. Based on all the solar projects I've worked on over the last 10 years in New England and New York, we don't know if there's going to be further discussion, if this particular public hearing will be continued to another date, but we'd be very interested in working with you all on what is a feasible, if you want to have a maximum lot coverage number, what is a feasible number? And it's typically something in the order of 60 to 75% of a parcel. So that's one thought. The second one was the question of the agricultural soils, classes 1 through 4. There is a sentence in the draft law that refers to the community solar installation. And it says, I'll just read it out loud. The location of the community solar installation shall not encroach on ecologically sensitive land or water resources to the maximum extent practicable, comma, nor remove prime agricultural land from potential agricultural production. So as you might already know, much of the agricultural land that solar has been situated on is really due to the fact that landowners are no longer able to profitably farm the land. And we have some thoughts on if there was a possibility without asking for a variance at some point in time. If a landowner wishes to provide an affidavit to the town, and this would obviously need to be somehow noted in the amended law, that if there's a reason, let's say excessive wetness or excessive wetlands, rocky terrain, or slopes that are really not appropriate for ag land, even though it might be ag land classes 1 through 4, or so on, that there's a possibility that the reviewing board, which I'm presuming would be the planning board of Rhinebeck, they could waive that provision if the landowner and their engineers could provide some kind of affidavit stating that it can't be profitably employed due to those particular conditions. That was item number 2. And I guess I wrapped up the question about the coverage. I wrapped that up into really the third comment, which was this, up to 75% of the total lot acreage would be covered by solar. And that's pretty much where I'm at.
Thank
Emily,
you.
did you have anything further?
Yes, what is your company again?
Carson Power, it's spelled C for Charlie, A for Alpha, R for Romeo, S for Sally, O for Oscar, and N for Natalie.
Carson Power?
Yep.
And where is your proposed development that's partially in Rhinebeck?
So it's on the Mosher parcel, which is, we've got 37 acres, which is in the town of Red Hook, and about 12 that's going to be in the town of
Oh, it's right off Route 9.
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Anything further?
Yes, I would like to say something. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Yes, okay. I'm going to try and put my comment, there it is, in the chat so you can read it.
Okay,
Can you see that?
Yep.
I think you should read it, Ted, for the public, because I don't believe that the chats are part of the
Okay.
meeting record.
After reviewing the February meeting on the Grassmere project, I was surprised the town is not requesting nor even demanding commercial projects several hundred acres use at least 1 or 2% of their acres for solar energy, typically enough for daytime use in that project, plus another 10% more that would lower electricity costs for Rhinebeck town and even residents. In addition, such projects should be using geothermal energy as much as possible, and it should be required. All advantages, these are all advantages for the town and its residents. Why isn't this part of the town's requirement for large-scale commercial projects? It's a win-win for everyone, but a loss for the town if not part of any large-scale project such as the Grassmere project. Or maybe this is already in there, but just not mentioned and I didn't see it. Rhinebeck should be the leader in this.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, sorry.
Hi, Chairman, this is Dave Albrecht again.
Hold on, Dave, you've spoken already. I want to see who else wants to speak.
Okay, I just had one question if there's time.
Is there anybody else who wishes to comment on this? Alan, now's your time. No, you're on mute though. You should probably unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'll start off with my question, which is the NYSERDA
recommendations for solar farms and so forth seem to be recommending that the ground coverage of a solar array be computed by only considering the poles that are holding up the array rather than the whole size of the array. And I was wondering which of the definitions of the size of the array we were going to use for this law, whether it be the actual footprint on the ground, or would it be the area covered by all the panels?
So if it's one of those 6-inch diameter poles, that would be all of Rhinebeck, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So I think it's the area of the array essentially, right?
Didn't we already pass a law for this the last time that defined what coverage was?
I think it's still up in the air. The thing is, with the gentleman that mentioned the maximum and minimum size coverage, we're correcting a typo because those numbers are actually maximum, not minimum. And so that says in 100 acres, you could cover 20 or 25 acres, depending on the zoning area.
But we're pinned at a max of 36,000 square feet, correct?
No, that's the old, that's the old law.
Well, I was looking at the one this morning. Okay.
36,000 square feet, 5 megawatts to 10 megawatts is the minimum viable solar farm that has to connect to the grid.
Right.
And 5 megawatts, you're looking at 25 acres, which is 100,000 square feet.
So right now the law is max what coverage, like in what, if you've got a 100-acre in what?
Well, if you're in R20, it's I think it's 25% or 20%. Can you help me there, Jim?
Yeah, so there are different coverages depending on the zoning district that you're in. I actually did go through and do a calculation looking at each of the districts, right? As kind of as it stands now. And so under the current code, we currently permit for the large scale solar 36,000 square feet of solar module surface area. And what's written in the code that is proposed right now is that would go to the lot coverage. So I went through and calculated it, assuming the minimum acreage size, for each of the zoning districts. And I can run through it really quickly for you. The HP 20 has a 20-acre minimum lot and 20% coverage. So the solar module surface area maximum on that would be 174,240 square feet. That's in the HP 20.
How many acres is that?
It's about 4 acres.
Oh, 17,000?
174,240 square feet.
That's 4 acres.
It's like 4 acres. An acre is just over 4.
I know what an acre is. I thought he said 17, sorry.
And so, I can run through the numbers really quick. So the HP 20, we're looking at about 4 acres of land that could be solar module surface area out of the 20. The RA 10 has a 20% lot coverage, a 10-acre minimum. We'd be looking at 2 acres out of the 10 or 87,000 square feet. And the RC 5 and the RL 5, those are both 5-acre lots zoning with a 25% lot coverage. Those would be just shy of 55,000 square feet or 1.25 acres of solar coverage. In the BP, it's a 3-acre lot minimum, estimated. I guess it kind of varies, but that one has an 80% lot coverage. So on the 3 acres, you'd be able to do 2.4 acres worth of solar or almost 105,000 square feet of solar panel. The Gateway North is a 55% lot coverage, but it's a 1-acre minimum. So if someone came in on 1 acre, they could do 24,000 square feet of solar. In the ORP, it's 65% lot coverage with a 6-acre minimum. So you could do on 6 acres, 3.9 acres of solar or just shy of 170,000 square feet of solar panel area. And the other districts, it kind of depends on several criteria. So it wasn't an easy calculation. The only other one that I did do was the mining overlay, which requires a 10-acre lot minimum. The mining overlays are in the RC5, so it's a 25% lot coverage. So in theory, in the mining overlay, you could do just shy of 109,000 acres of solar, or 2.5 acres on a 10-acre lot. So assuming my math is right, those are the numbers we're coming up with.
Question. How would we calculate the area of the array? Is it the perimeter of all the panels together, or is it the area of the individual panels so as not to include in the area of the array the spaces between the panels?
Or is it the poles?
No,
As
that's
it's,
Not the poles.
not the
That's
pole.
crazy.
But also,
It's not
if the
crazy,
panels
it's
are set at an
what
angle,
NYSERDA recommended.
I know,
Which
you
is
told
crazy.
So
us,
it's
but I
not
don't buy
crazy.
it.
Okay,
right, but if the panels are at an angle, is it from above? Because if they're at an angle, they're a lesser square footage.
Is it the shadow?
There's a lot of nuances to this.
the way the code is written is it's a solar module surface area. So Chauncey, it'd be the surface area of the, essentially the impervious, structure, so the panels themselves.
So
Yeah.
the spaces between the panels would not be included.
No, and it isn't included in any of the,
Okay,
any of our
Okay.
coverages that we do. Right?
okay,
But
good.
if the
Next name
panel's
is-
tilted, it
hold
doesn't,
on, one at a time, please, one at a time.
if the panel's tilted, it doesn't change the square footage.
Correct, it's the square footage of the panel itself.
So it's a built-in bonus to tilting.
And that's from the code right now. Remember,
Okay.
we went in and added in criteria to permit community solar as a particular use by going in and utilizing the existing code that's there today. I could actually answer one of the earlier questions about ag soils. That requirement's in the code today. I didn't put that in there. So the ag soils requirement is what exists today. So we went in and added in criteria to specifically allow and permit community solar within the existing large scale solar regulations we have today.
Well, I mean, my position is very
Oh,
simple. Between,
Hold on, are there any other comments or questions?
I have one comment when you're ready for it.
Go ahead, Chauncey.
I've been thinking quite a lot today as I prepared for this meeting about the problem that Dave Aldrich referred to. And I think it is a real and legitimate problem. We have lots and lots of open land in the town that I imagine would fall within the prime farmland definition, on which there will never be another real crop. And those areas, it seems to me, should be considered for communal solar systems and perhaps other solar systems, because they're just sitting there forever. And I know it's nice in a rural sense, but they're not prime farmlands. As a farm boy, I can assure you that I'm right about that.
and
For whatever reason, no water, rocks, you got to be able to irrigate and use $100,000 tractors these days to farm in order to support your family.
well, as I said last meeting, between the view shed requirements, the setback requirements, the fact that it can only be there for 20 years, the fact that we have coverage restrictions, and the fact that we have height restrictions, in my opinion, there is no place in the town of Rhinebeck that will be qualified for a practical solar array. And so this law does nothing.
Yeah, I get that I'm aligned with that, but the other thing too is, are we legislating to the market, or are we legislating to what is marketable here? I think that's sort of the question.
Well, I mean, do we
Hold
want to
on,
have?
Alan, hold on. What do you mean by that, Josh?
Well, if 10,000 square feet, if 25 megawatts, if that's the minimum that is allowable or at least marketable in the world at the moment, is that what we're trying to attract? Or are we trying to attract something smaller and intimate? Because the basic research I've done, and it could be totally wrong, is that an acre will get you 90 houses fueled by community solar, financing and tax rebates aside, and also assuming a 485 watt per panel return, which is the middle. You do 425 watts or 550 based on current technology. So I don't know that we're legislating towards what is that market or our market. Are we trying to create a market? That's my point. A smaller market.
No, what we're trying to do, I think, is to have practical community solar. And
So
you
what's
can't,
definable?
I'll define it. There's a fixed cost to a solar array that's different from having one in your backyard. You've got to be able to connect to the grid, and you've got to be able to connect to the grid in a way that carries enough power to make the array practical, because that's a fixed cost. And What I'm told is 5 megawatts is the minimum practical size of an array like that. It's not, it isn't on somebody's roof powering their house. This is
No, I get that.
put in, let me finish. This is power to be put into the grid, not power to power the house next door. And so 5 megawatts, you're looking at 5 acres, 25 acres of space to put it in. And, so that says you got to have 100 to 125 acres of land if you're limited to 25 or 20% coverage.
But if we don't want 25 acres of solar farms somewhere.
No,
in
no.
Rhinebeck,
That's not
Well,
the
then
idea.
you don't want solar farms. So why are we even bothering?
We already have solar farms. Jim, can I just pipe in on a couple of things? Jim, shouldn't we be correcting the maximum and minimum language? I thought we had addressed that before.
That is something we need to do.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
I think probably this law is a good place to do that. So maybe we should hold off passing the law tonight.
that makes
Um,
sense.
And I think the agricultural soil issue is a prime soil is a good issue. I've dealt with that before and many times. And you're right, Chauncey. It's an outmoded concept. And some towns have kind of skirted around that issue with solar farms, but I think that we should probably take a look at that and maybe consider liberalizing the language so they don't have to apply for a waiver, but that the planning board would have the option to waive the requirement
Why
on
would
a
we want the
case-by-case
plan-
basis.
Why would we want the planning board to waive it? Why wouldn't we just want to embed it in our law?
Because there may be cases where you do want to protect the prime soil, and maybe cases where you don't. So there's a certain amount of discretion, I think. So we should take a look at that maybe if we're going to amend the law. And Jim, where does the state statute preempt the local jurisdiction over these in terms of size?
That's a good question. I know it's in the NYSERDA guidebook in terms of where those things happen. I'd have to look. I don't know off the top of my head, Warren. And I
Okay,
have it open.
we
I
should
have it
double-
open, but I'm not going to find it right now.
We should double check that because there's a certain point of the size of a solar farm where it's preempted by state law. And there's a procedure in New York state law that governs the siting of these facilities. So we should probably just check to see where our jurisdiction over those cuts off. So maybe this holding off on passing the local law until we can take a look at some of those issues would make sense.
Eleanor, you had something to say. You're on mute. You had a comment on the local law?
I just wanted to comment about farmland. I think we should be careful about protecting our farmland. I know it sounds silly now, but I can tell you that in the future, if we build on farmland, we will regret it because there are already so many issues with water out in the West that I think that farming is going to have to migrate east, or we're going to have to depend on imports, and depending on imports is not good, as you can see with what's happening with everything that we import and inflation. So anything we can do to protect farmland, I think we should be very careful about it.
Yeah, we should look
Thank
into that,
you.
but just,
Hold on. Thank you.
yeah,
we had
let me
two-
just comment on that.
No,
So-
let me just say something. We have two comments too. One from David that says that a 5 megawatt solar array would provide power for approximately 12 to 1,300 homes. I think we have about 1,600 homes in the town of Rhinebeck outside the village.
Yeah,
The
those are
second-
big facilities.
That's
not
huge.
right.
What?
The Solar Energy Industry Association says 164 homes per megawatt. So
I'm just reading you the comment. that
I
David-
understand the comment's not accurate.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so let's not get into a debate. I'm trying to make sure everybody's heard. As I said before, things on the chat are not public records, so I'm trying to read them in. Emily said for a community solar project, 8 acres of lot coverage is required regardless of the size of the lot.
Yeah, let me point out one other thing about the farmland. When you put a solar array on a piece of property, you're not permanently taking the prime soils out of agricultural production because so much of the prime soils, most of the prime soils are unaffected by the arrays, except for the poles that are put in there. And in addition, if an application came in that didn't meet our requirements in our code for special permitting of these facilities, an area variance could be applied for, which is a much lesser standard than a use variance. So
Oh, and don't forget the fact that these all have to have a removal plan after 20 years. So in effect, every array is temporary.
no, I'm not sure that, are you saying that it has to be removed after 20 years?
Well, it's our option.
No, I think if it becomes dysfunctional and it's not being used, there's a time period that they have to remove it, but
Yeah,
they could last for 40 years.
Right, but the efficiency arguably in 20 years makes them functionally obsolete, I think is the general thinking.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, by the time, in 20 years, I guarantee you, we'll have a different way to generate energy.
All right,
You're probably correct on
I'm
that.
gonna wrap
Make a
this
motion to
up.
hold.
We are obviously not ready to pass this law. We've heard these public comments. Are there any other public comments? I think we have to go back to the drawing board and look at this again. Warren, Jim, is that your feeling?
Yeah, I think Jim and I should talk about it a little bit more, some of these issues, and see if we can address them.
Should I close the public hearing and? we'll
No,
wait-
let's keep it open just in case there are things that we,
Thanks, Ted.
That's I'm fine with that. That's good.
Is Chairman, this is Dave Albrecht. Can I,
I'm sorry, I'm supervisor, not chairman.
oh, Supervisor, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can I, it sounds like you guys are going to continue the hearing. Is it advisable for Carson Power to submit any comments in writing
Sure, yeah.
with that to sort of, sort of wrap up what you've heard
Yes,
from
you
us?
can send it to the town board and the town clerk.
Okay, excellent.
are you aware, by the way, if you're going to be citing a solar project in the town, that we have a pilot law?
So
That's good to know.
So I think one of the things that we would love to discuss with you guys, obviously, is because the parcel that we're looking at right now is between the town of Rhinebeck and the town of Rhinebeck. How do we sort of navigate that pilot law?
Yeah, I just want to put it on the public record that we've notified you that there is a pilot law in the town of Rhinebeck. We're required to do that once we become aware of an application, so.
Sounds good. Great. We'll be there.
I'll hold this open until our next meeting and then we can always extend it, which is Monday, June 27th.
I'm sorry, June what?
27th, in 2 weeks. And we can always re-extend if we're not ready.
Okay, that sounds great.
So we're going to hold this open and continue working on it. Thank you, everybody, for your comments.
Elizabeth,
Hi, Bill.
hi. Could Mr. Albrecht and give us a spelling on his last name, please?
Albrecht.
I'm sorry. A-L.
Albrecht.
Okay, thanks.
I did add it to my picture.
Okay,
so-
thank you.
Thank you.
We've moved on from these two public hearings. The other thing we want to do, so we're tabling item number 15, 20, agenda 2022-153, Joni. What I'd like to do while we have Warren and Jim here is go to a discussion about short-term rentals. It's on our discussion area. If you just bear with me a second, I'm gonna dig out all my information from the back of this packet. We had tabled our short-term rental law during COVID because people were moving up here by the droves and into short-term rentals that were becoming, we just didn't want to create more chaos during a very chaotic time. And also people weren't coming to meetings. So we're picking it up again. For everyone, we've been getting literally 2 to 3 calls a day to our building department and zoning department asking by realtors and people looking at houses here, saying that they're buying a house and they want to put in they want to do Airbnb. It's currently not allowed. It's currently illegal in the town. I've been working with Heather Lavarnway at the Dutchess County Department of Planning just to get some preliminary numbers here. We don't have much historic information, but we do know that in 2021, first quarter of Rhinebeck had 77 short-term rentals, second quarter was 72, third quarter was 77, fourth quarter was 67, and the first quarter of 2022 is 66. This is from, what is it called now? It's called, it's formerly host compliance now.
Granicus.
Thank you. And this is from Heather at Dutchess County Department of Planning. We know that in 2020, when the COVID started, a lot of short-term rentals came off the market and were rented for longer term. The other thing that I want to tell you that I've prepared here is our property classification summaries. And really, in the town of Rhinebeck, outside of the village, we have 1,365 one-family residences, 18 family residences with an apartment, 136 rural residences, which are homes on over 10 acres, 17 rural residences with ag, which is homes on 10 acres with ag exemptions, 21 estates, which are basically the rivers and anything over, I think, 50 acres, and 3 residential multiples and 81 multiple residences. So if you add those all together, we have about under 1,500 units that would qualify to be used as short-term rentals. So we can see that during COVID, as numbers have decreased, at least 6% of our housing stock is a short-term rental. That's the rough data that we have. One question that I wanted to ask Warren was, in beginning to draft a law for short-term rentals, would we be allowed to allow short-term rentals for property classifications? I know we can go by zoning districts, but can we go by property classifications?
Give me an example of what you mean.
Well, like a 210 is a one-family residence. A 215 is a one-family residence with an accessory apartment. Could we create the zoning law to only allow specific property classifications to be allowed to Airbnb?
Yeah, we probably could, as long as it's we have a rational basis for doing that.
I asked the County Department of Planning. They thought it was a great idea, but did not know. As you know, we can specify which zones we'll let it in, but I want to know, can we, for instance, I don't know that we'd want to allow them in a 3-family residence because, you know, they're not owner occupied. It would be like allowing them in an apartment building. So I guess I'd like more information about that.
You know, we could look into that. I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that.
Okay, that's just an idea that I came up with. The other things that I just wanted to talk to about the board, you know, I put out here sort of, I had Jim enumerate all the things that we were considering so that this could be sort of considered a discussion as we go forward crafting the law. Of often our residents, you know, I just want to give everybody time to get up to speed. I think what we've decided that we want to do is sign up with Dutchess County for Granicus. That will help us track what goes on, but it will require more labor on our part. And I believe the county pays for up to $5,000 a year for that, which should cover us. we've talked about what zoning districts these should be in. Should they be in all zones or specific zones? And the other question I'd like to add is, can they be property classifications as well? I just posed the question, Rhinebeck is a historic hamlet overlay. Should short-term rentals be allowed there even though there's no zoning by right and everything has to be done by special use permit? Or should any short-term rentals in the historic hamlet be consistent with their zoning and have to go through the planning board? I also want you to consider whether or not we should allow short-term rentals in neighborhood overlays. Part of the complaints that we've gotten are people living next to roving bands of renters. So it's a commercial use of a residential neighborhood. And the other concern is sort of protecting our housing stock. Do you guys have any thoughts on any of this so far? Districts or property classifications?
Not off the top of my head. I'd have to look at it. If you could send me a list
I'm asking.
of your concerns, we could look at it and discuss it, but I
That's,
don't have.
that's on our, this is on our agenda and I'm sort of polling the board about it right
Oh,
now.
I thought you were asking me. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay. I'm asking the board before you start crafting it. Like, what do you guys think? Are you up for considering property classifications as a criteria, as well as zoning districts?
Well, the way I feel about it is, although we've had a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions, I feel sort of after this long enforced delay that we're sort of working on a clean slate.
Okay, so moving forward, I'll continue with number one, that we would sign up with the county for Granicus. And
Yeah.
number two, that we'll consider short-term rentals per districts and property classifications, that it's all open for discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, number three is hosted or unhosted. Which way are you guys leaning towards this?
Hosted.
Okay, Josh?
I agree with Ed, but there has to be some circumstance where the property manager, someone local, where someone's not in town for 3 months, it's their legal residence that they can still, there has to be a side to that.
Chance?
I don't know.
Okay, Alan?
I think hosted.
I'm leaning towards hosted as well, but we have to, there's, number four actually should have come first. I think where we were before is that we were only going to allow people whose domicile, primary home, no
Yes.
second homes, no out-of-towners, no owning 3 or 4 homes to rent out. You can only rent out a short-term rental if it's your primary, if it's your domicile, your legal and true address.
Which kind of trumps the hosted, unhosted if we say yes to that.
Well,
correct?
no, it doesn't, because there are, as I just read by the property classifications, there are single family houses with apartments and accessory dwellings. So if you have, your domicile has an accessory dwelling, you could rent it out. You would have to be there, but you could rent it out.
Yeah.
Alan?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a reasonable approach.
So everybody's still pretty much on board with only being able to rent out your domicile or your permanent residence?
Yes.
Okay, and do we also want to consider, since, it's your domicile and personal residence, according to tax code, you have to live there X amount of
9 months.
time. What?
It's 9 months, basically, right?
I don't know. I don't know what the tax code says, and I don't know how we would define it. But would we allow someone with a primary domicile to rent out their primary domicile for a short-term rental for a fixed period of time? Are you guys interested in that? Or do you want to?
Beyond 30 days?
No, a short-term rental is anything under 30 days.
Yeah, but you,
So-
I'm sorry.
So say you lived in the town outside the village, Josh, and you and your family went to, I don't know, Mexico for 2 months.
So that's a vacation rental by definition, I guess, basically.
It's a short-term rental. A short-term rental is anything under 30 days.
Okay.
That's what this law is for. So say you lived in the village, town outside the village, and you and your family went away for 2 months every year to Mexico. Would we allow you to rent out your primary domicile for the 2 months you were away with a manager or, whatever you call it?
Well,
Is that-
wait, the
That's not a
answer is
short-term
clearly
rental,
yes.
though.
Yeah, pieces of the 2 months.
Please,
Pieces of the
one
two-
at a time. It's a short-term rental. If you
said
rent
30
it out,
days.
Not
No.
under
Pieces
30
of the
days.
2 months.
pieces. Would we allow someone who was out of town for 4 months a year to rent out their primary abode as a short-term rental?
Yes.
Yes,
So we'd like to consider that.
yes.
Chauncey,
Don't know.
Alan,
No thought needs to be given, as far as I'm concerned.
Alan?
I have a problem with that.
Okay, so we'll keep that on to be considered, and we just have to sort of, like, how long? 4 months or, what does tax code say? How long do you have to live if you have a house in Florida and a house in New York, how long do you have to live in your house in Florida to be a Florida resident? And
I think it's the majority of the year.
That's been my impression too, Alan.
So it's 6 months plus 1 day.
Yeah.
do we want to be more stringent than that? Do we want to limit it, etc.? Let's think about that. Also, do we want to consider limiting the number of STRs through a lottery or any other kind of method?
That to me seems way too complicated, but that's just me.
I agree. I don't like the lottery idea.
Ed,
No, I don't like it.
okay,
Yeah,
let's
I
strike it
agree.
out.
Okay,
Let's take
no
it out.
lottery.
This is tricky. Can we allow for pre-existing short-term rentals? They're not currently legal, so I don't know how we could allow for pre-existing. I mean, I think it's moot because we're looking at only if it's your domicile, correct?
Right.
Are we of the mind that we're going to not allow, say Jim and I own another house in Rhinebeck, not our primary abode, and we rent it out as a short-term rental? Are we not going to allow that anymore?
I hope you've already sold it, given the real estate market, but
Sorry?
I'm making a terrible joke.
Okay, well, let's just stick, I don't want to be here. Yeah, it's not a terrible joke, but people have bought houses here and they're using them as businesses. It's not allowed. Do we want to continue to allow that?
No, I have no sympathy for people in that situation. I'm against grandfathering. You don't secure a right by breaking the law.
Okay.
Not in my opinion, anyway.
And we're not going to consider letting people rent out homes that aren't their primary.
That's a different question to me, but.
We still have that question open. So
Yeah.
you are not in favor of allowing illegal pre-existing conditions?
No, I'm not in favor of doing that. No grandfathering from,
Okay, Ed,
as far as I'm concerned.
Either, no.
Josh?
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
I'm not gonna argue with that.
Okay, so that's getting struck out. No, that's a big no. And I guess we have to consider how we're rolling out regulations. We made it like a 6-month phase-in period or something, TBD.
Yeah.
I guess we do want a permit for all of this, and
Yes.
I
think the inspection process is critical.
it has to be a site visit by the zoning administrator and the building inspector and a fire inspection.
Yes.
Okay. what if somebody has a domicile and they own the house next door that's on another parcel? Are we going to allow them to rent that out as a short-term rental?
You mean rent both houses?
No.
No,
If you live at 5 Smith Street and that's your primary domicile, but you owe 3 Smith Street and it's not your primary domicile, but it's right next door, I guess we've already said no. We've said only primary domiciles.
right, that's a no.
All right. Can we think about providing more flexibility to encourage short-term rentals on farms for agritourism? And like, just say if it's a farm over a certain amount of acreage, you can rent it out for a short-term rental.
What does that mean, though?
Well, maybe some people have a farm and it's not their primary domicile. They live off-site and there's a little farm cottage on it. Would we, and it's over X amount of acres, whatever we decide, would we allow them to rent it out for a short-term rental if it's an active farm over? Is that something you would like to consider?
Doesn't it kind of get into the question of, is it a house in there? Like, if they put up a tent, we can rent it out there, and put up a barn, you can rent, I mean, I don't know, we're getting into the weeds a
We're
little
getting
bit.
into
but-
the weeds. I'm just saying, is there something we can consider to promote agritourism?
The agritourism component just has a slightly different connotation, a little bit more of a commercial component, I think, than say a strictly single family residential. That's the reason we brought it up.
Thanks, Jim. I'd like to continue considering that if you guys do.
Okay.
I think it's important to have some flexibility for that. Also, you know, we still talk about wedding and event venues. That's one of the biggest economical driving forces in the area. We haven't done that yet. As a part of this, we have to do that or separately. 12, we've run into this. Do we want to consider, there are many neighborhoods that have deed restrictions, and you know that the town can enforce deed restrictions. We had a very contentious short-term rental in a housing in a neighborhood that had deed restrictions. Is there any way do we want to consider creating an overlay for neighborhoods with deed restrictions and not allowing short-term rentals there, if that's possible?
I am almost violently opposed to playing cop here and enforcing deed restrictions. We have a law, people have to deal with that. They have separate deed restrictions, they have to deal with that. I don't think we should mix them.
Okay, Josh?
I mean, how can I argue with that?
Ed?
I agree with Chauncey.
Ed the lock, okay.
I agree
moving.
with Chauncey.
4, done. Okay, and just a couple of more. We always said, I don't know, have a maximum of 3 bedrooms with 2 occupants per bedroom, at least 1 bedroom in the domicile to be retained.
But that gets into the building code thing too, like the septic system's only big enough to accept so much stuff. I mean,
Okay, we also have to hammer out what fees would be, what violations would be. In Red Hook, they made it punishable by jail time.
Wow.
Well, I mean, that if you break the law enough, you go to jail.
I'll take that on my permanent record. I broke the Airbnb law.
Warren, you have anything to say about this? I mean, we have some buy-in on a direction. Can we, I guess we'll work with Jim to hone in a little bit and keep floating it out for public discussions.
Yeah, I think you're chewing off a lot here. It's going to take a while to create a zoning law of this magnitude covering so many areas. I'm always in favor of the simpler, the better, but
I think it's a complex issue. We've seen what the village has done. Red Hook has done it. Mylan has done it. I think we can do it too.
okay, I'd like to take a look, see what they've done and how successful they are.
They're all in E-code. I mean,
Okay.
the village is down to 5 short-term rentals, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Any public comment or questions on short-term rentals. We're obviously going to be discussing this and moving ahead to craft a law, and we'll try and get more word out about it. Okay. Is there anything else on the agenda that we would like? I can't even find my agenda anymore. The agenda is so big. Is there anything else on here that we want Warren and Jim to stay for? I think we're good, right?
I think we're good.
Warren, thanks for coming. Feel better?
My pleasure. Thanks,
Good to
Jim.
see you,
I'll be
Warren.
talking with you. Looks like
Absolutely.
we're going to be spending a lot of time together.
We will have some talking to do.
Bye.
Are we going to
Bye-bye.
talk about noise ordinance and chainsaws? And
Not on our, that's not on our agenda. Did you mean
Okay.
tonight or?
yeah, so we can postpone it. That's fine.
Well, let's let Warren and Jim go, and then we'll continue with our meeting, and then we can discuss that at an appropriate, I'll add it on here.
Yeah, if you want to do that at the next meeting, that's fine. We can go
Okay,
into.
good
All
night.
right.
Warren.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks.
All right.
See you, Warren.
Good night, Warren. Jim.
Okay, we have a certiorari settlement for Alan Share. Alan, I think you should,
I am recusing myself.
yeah, you probably should leave, just blank out for a little while, mute yourself. And you're supposed to leave the room, but yeah, there you go. I need a motion for, we're back to our regular meeting order, everybody. 2022-139 settlement of tax certiorari issue per share. May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Chauncey?
Yes.
Are there any discussions or any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. All right, somebody tell Alan he can come back.
How do we do that?
Do that.
Text him,
He
text
can
him.
listen, he can listen and not be here.
Text him. Text him.
Yeah,
Do
come
we
back.
call him?
I got
Oh,
him.
whatever, let's just
I'll
move
be
on.
back.
Ed-
There he is.
Oh, there he is.
Welcome
Ed.
back, Alan.
I didn't get a chance.
Item number 2, 2022-140 for the revisions of the concession stand agreement. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes unanimously. I need a motion for 2022-141 extended hours for cemetery data entry with Pat Kuhn.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ed. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks. Are there any discussions or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes unanimously. 2022-142 purchase and installation of kiosks at cemetery. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Any-
Want to make that motion or shall I?
Who's making the motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Thanks,
second.
Chauncey. I'll take Chauncey. And who's seconding?
Alan.
Thanks, Alan. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So moved. 2022-143 Dutchess County Climate Smart Communities Grant Revision MOU. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thanks. I have a second.
Second.
Thanks, Alan. Any discussion or questions?
This is just Cappy finally coming through, correct?
Yes, this
That's
is
what I thought.
a final, you never authorized me to sign it, so the
Okay,
county
great.
reminded us and Joan, Brad reminded us and Joan put it on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I need a motion for 2022-144 for recreation program Aqua Zumba.
Will somebody tell me? I'm sorry. I'll
I
wait.
need a motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks. Chauncey, you
Let's
had a
talk with
question?
Zumba.
It's like exercise class in the pool.
Oh, okay.
It's Zumba underwater.
Yes, it's like pickleball without racket.
Everything's pickleball. Any further discussion or questions? But we're
No.
not striping it.
That's right.
Oh,
No
wow,
stripes.
Let's
Ben.
let's not pull the scab. Let's just move forward.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution 2022-145, increase the pool petty cash.
Inflation,
Motion, please.
motion.
Thank you, Josh. May I have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Alan. Any discussion? I think they're going from 120 to 200.
there's,
All in favor?
aye,
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Establish camp petty cash. May I have a motion? Item, sorry, 2022-146. Motion, please.
motion,
Thank you, Alan. Second.
Second.
Thanks, Chauncey. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
aye,
Any against? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Need a motion for item 2022-147, private swim instruction at town pool.
motion,
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second,
Thanks, Josh. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Aye. Any against? It passes unanimously.
Elizabeth, did we skip anything out of order?
I don't think so.
How about resolution 142? Am I wrong or right?
We voted on that.
The kiosks, yes.
No.
Somebody motioned it, Alan seconded it. We approved it.
On the kiosk? I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, okay. I thought I had just 3 done. Okay, 3 and 4.
we want the kiosks.
We got the kiosks. We're getting the kiosks. The kiosks looks great, Suzanne. Thanks for the backup on the kiosks.
yes,
Just, we went so quickly, Ed, after
Yeah, I
the,
know. It's like,
2022-148 recreation hire amendment. May I have an emotion?
motion,
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Second,
Thanks, Chauncey. Any discussion or question?
Just a quick comment. Item 10 on the agenda indicates it's an amendment. It isn't. It's just a new set of new hires.
Okay. Noted. Joan, you got that?
Yes, it's actually backwards. The next one is an amendment.
All in favor?
aye,
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 11, 2022-149. May I have a motion?
motion.
Thank you, Alan. May I
And
have,
this is the amendment. So,
we have to get it on the floor. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Chauncey.
yeah.
Sorry, Alan, what?
No, this is an amendment to some of the salaries.
Right.
Yeah.
Any questions or further discussion? All in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I need a motion for 2022-150 employee pool passes.
motion,
Thank you. May I have a second?
second,
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 13, 2022-151, expenses for recreation training and certificate. May I have a motion?
motion,
Thank you. May I have a second? I'll take Sean.
second.
yeah,
All in favor? Any questions or comments?
no.
Yeah, just to point out that the form of contract doesn't seem to have been attached. It's referenced twice as being attached, but at least it wasn't in the printed copy Joan made for me.
I don't,
It may be in your
I
computer.
think we're just, I think this, I don't know that we need a contract because we're just reimbursing for their training up to a certain amount.
So maybe we just, do we want to just delete the language attached form contract to be signed by the town and its summer staff?
Joan? No, the contract is something that the rec director is going to come up with. And because this is based on, we are only reimbursing if the employee works the whole season.
Yeah.
So that has to be worked out with our rec director, and we've left that at her discretion to work that out with the employees to decide what their full season is, and then we reimburse. The reason why we're doing this is because we were paying for people's certification and they were only working 4 weeks.
That's fine. I would just take out the reference to an attached form because otherwise the resolution's inaccurate.
Joan, is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Joan?
Fine with me.
Yes,
Joan,
Yes.
do you want us, I said Joan, do you want us to put anything in here to cover that since we're taking out attached form? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved unanimously. Item 2022-152 cemetery parking area upgrade. May I have a motion?
motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Okay, we're good on 15 and 16. I'll make a motion for our preliminary accounts payable abstracts 150. I'm sorry, did I say 2022-155? I will make a motion.
155.
Yeah, 155 for our accounts payable abstracts. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Josh. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I'll make a motion for 2022-156 for our capital projects abstracts. May I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Josh. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. We have, is there any new business before the board? Does anybody have anything that he wants to bring up?
I don't have really new business, but I do just want to call your attention to a problem. We have been told, and we are telling people, that our tennis/pickleball courts are to be resurfaced in July. Ed and I have been battering at Field Turf to get us a contract. We can't get the buggers to send us a contract, so I don't know why we can count on them to do the work in July if we can't even get a contract out of them.
They said
If
there's a
anybody
big-
has pull with them, pull.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I think that again, this is a COVID and a backlog, and they're not sending us a contract. If we don't have a contract, we can't redo them. So we'll just
Yeah.
have to keep the public notice. Hopefully it
I'll
will
keep
come.
on it.
Do we
I'll
have
keep on
a backup that we want to go to, a backup, service provider, or,
Not
I-
at this time, no.
I mean,
Just say the whole world is crazy right now.
The whole
And I mean, I don't want to blame them or accuse them, but I think it's par for the course.
we may be waiting for a while. We're seeing what we're facing with our building the field with components not being very, readily available. So,
We're doing the best we can.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Chauncey.
We'll keep nagging them.
Um,
Your turn, Ed, or mine?
I think it's mine.
Okay.
CAB, we're thinking about changing the CAB from a board of 9 to 5 because we do not have anybody stepping forward to serve on it. We currently have 3 members now. And Josh, can you take over for a minute?
Absolutely.
I'm just going to
So-
excuse myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So the community, the Conservation Advisory Board is a very important part of our organization. They review things with the planning board and they are the shepherds of the new NRI, but it's hard to find people to staff it. So for the public, if there's anyone that's interested in serving on the CAB, we welcome your
Contribution.
yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else? Ed, you are the liaison, aren't you?
I know, I've had the same problem for 6 years now, and it's never been alleviating at all because it's continually hard to get people who want to do any kind of, there's a lot of site visits they think they have to perform with the planning board, and you can't get the people out to do it because usually they take place during the middle of the day or something. So you might have 3 different sites to go to and only one person can make it.
Right.
It's
And it's a labor intensive thing. You also have to have a
Yeah.
good working knowledge of zoning and
that's
some
it.
understanding of how to read plans and
Yep.
lots of stuff. So it's an important thing.
Right, because they work hand in hand with the planning board, so it isn't.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something. I don't know if you're done or you want to continue, Josh.
No, I think that's about all I have to say about the CAB.
There's a very preliminary discussion going on between HPAC and the CAB to see if HPAC and the CAB can,
Right.
whatever the legal parameters are, combined. I know that the CAB is a statutory board and HPAC is a committee. There are people on HPAC who are not electors of Rhinebeck, and you have to be an a resident. You have residential requirements to be on a statutory board. So there's interest from some of the HPAC members to possibly serve on the CAB if they could work in conjunction. So that will be continued. There's a possibility there. But in light of that maybe not happening, are you guys in favor of reducing the number of CAB members?
I am.
Are you, Josh? I've got 2 opinions of that, because not having enough people do the work means you need more people in the pool than only 5. That's so I'm.
Ed, we don't have anyone. So we have a dysfunctioning board that
I believe me, I know.
at least they'd have a quorum. So
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds
I
like.
mean, and we can change this by a resolution of the board. So
We don't have to stop looking for a 6th and 7th member.
No, we don't.
No.
No, that's a nice part. Yep.
okay. The only other thing is ARPA funds. That's just a standing thing on there. We've received 3 suggestions of how to spend the money from 3 village residents, and we're still open for suggestions. We'll take your suggestions in a meeting or written. And the only other thing is the noise issue. I know that I made a subcommittee of Ed and Alan, and what's Rudy's last name?
McIntyre.
And I know Rudy wants to work with you guys and Jim on that, so
Yeah.
hopefully you'll keep working on that.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
Here's the noise level.
Right now?
Yeah. See?
Wow. I could shot it up just now.
It's an app for the iPhone from the NIOSH, which is the government agency for occupational whatever, safety and health.
OSHA?
No, NIOSH.
NIOSH.
All right.
NIOSH.
All right. Well, you're going to work on that. I don't know that I favor noise monitoring as part of this. I think I might rather favor hours and, types.
Well, we already have a noise ordinance, if you let me, that specifies maximum noise levels allowable for different things.
And what I'm saying is I don't support it because we've never had success, nor does any other community have success in supporting it, because we don't have the 24/7, 365 labor to go out and take noise readings and write tickets.
Well, but the law today basically says if a citizen complains, then you go out.
And what I'm saying is we don't have the labor to do that. And we often can't catch people when they're doing it. So I favor a law that just says you can use these machines during these hours for this duration and these types of machines. That's just my point of view.
Okay.
I've been thinking
You're
along-
entitled to be wrong. That's okay.
I've been thinking along the same line, Elizabeth, and I wonder if we take that approach, maybe we ought to ask Warren if we could have one set of permitted hours for somebody who is doing his own work on his own property, and a different set, whatever they might be, for professionals, for landscapers and
Sure.
other hirees.
Sure.
It might be a way to approach it.
Yeah, but who's going to enforce that?
Ah,
Our code
zoning
enforcement.
enforcement officer.
Yeah, but I mean, you just
All right,
walk
listen,
over one
there's
of
a-
these and you're done.
No, all right. Well, you have a subcommittee. You have, just work on it and come to us with something
Okay,
that's
I will.
viable.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment on any non-agenda items? I would like a motion to go into executive session to discuss the engagement of a specific town committee board member.
So move.
Second, we'll be back in a moment. Can we have the panic room or the executive session room? We're back from executive session. I'd like a motion to add Chad Kleisch, Kleitschch, to our Citizens Comp Plan and Environmental Review Committee.
I'll make a motion.
I think I just made a motion.
Just that you want it.
Yeah, you want to second it?
Yeah, I do.
Joan, I don't have the exact name of the committee, but okay, all in favor of adding Chad to the committee?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. And this, with Sally Mazzarella's resignation, we are very sorry to see Sally go. She needs to put her energy elsewhere, to her family. And Sally's been an amazing volunteer to this community and is still working with us on developing the park. So welcome, Chad, and thank you, Sally. Anything else? Any other business before the town? Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing nothing, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Right.
Thank you.